Hi. Okay, in today's video, I am going to try and help you feel a little bit more comfortable about having letters in maths. So if you are literally just starting out with algebra, those letters, when they first appear, are a little bit confusing for many, many people. So I'm hoping by using some maths that we're already really comfortable about to help you understand a little bit better about what these letters are trying to do will help you. So looking at this question here, that is not going to be hard for you. We are already really secure, really comfortable in doing something like 2 plus 5. We know it equals 7. But what if I had just written that and then my ink pen had a little bit of a splat? It wouldn't be a big deal. You'd still be able to look at my work and go, oh, I know what that is. That was a 2 before you had an accident with your pen. And that's because you're super comfortable with that question. So I could accidentally do something silly and you'd still be fine reading and understanding it. I could have given you the question with just an empty square and asked you to fill it in. I'm not asking you to find the end answer anymore because that's already there. I want to know what would add to 5 to make 7. And again, because we're really comfortable, we're really strong in that area, we know that that answers 2. And we're really happy with that. But when I give you the question like this, we start to question a lot deeper why there's an X, what's the X doing, what does it value, and we let it put us off. But the X is really just that ink splat. It's just covering up a number that I can't see, or that empty box where I've got to work it out. And that's how I see algebra and how I see those letters. It's like I've become a detective and I have to use the clues and my knowledge to help me work out what the letter is representing. The letter is a number I don't know until I've worked it out. And of course, we know that X must be covering up. I could slide it out the way and I could see what it was trying to be. X was being 2 because 2 plus 5 equals 7. So let's look at these questions. I've got different letters. Don't worry about different letters. They're all doing the exact same job. They're trying to be numbers. They are numbers that we don't know until we've worked them out. So in the first question, X plus 4 equals 7. X can only be one number. It can only be the number that would make that answer true. So if it was a card just covering up a number I can't see, I'd slide it out the way and see that X is indeed 3. X has to be 3 in order for that to be true. M means the same thing. It's just a number I don't know. So I think about my knowledge. Something plus 4 equals 12. I've now called M something because it helps me. And that's what we need to do. We need to find ways of working that help us. So M is a number I don't know. So that something is going to be 8 because 8 plus 4 equals 12. It's the only value it can take. P is a number that I don't know. Something take away 3 equals 5. P has to equal 8. It cannot be any other number. Okay. That's a question we build to. That's a question that we might not be able to pick apart and work through. And there are some questions that we could give you that you would never be able to pick apart because they've used fractions or decimals as the answer, or even as the number itself. Remember, if the letter is representing a number we don't know, it can be any number. It doesn't have to be a whole number. It could be 3/4. It doesn't have to be positive. It could be minus 28. It can be any number, and that letter represents it. What we've just been looking at are equations. In fact, what I've got on the screen now are equations. We just don't really refer to that as equations. So, of course, when we start to learn about our algebra and when we start to learn letters within our maths, that's when we first really hear the word equations. It sounds really big and complicated. but it's what you've always been doing. Equations are just sums, they're just calculations. Those are genuinely equations, but we just tend to say, oh, we're going to do adding today. We never hear that language. The only difference when it's algebra is one of the numbers is hidden away. It's covered up and disguised as a letter. And then the challenge is for you to work it out. And I can use, as I said, any letter that I like to do that. And we've used our knowledge of equations that we've already got to help us understand the letters. But there is another area where we see algebra really, really early on, and that comes under the name of expressions. These are all expressions. There's not a lot we can do with that, literally nothing. Over here, let me get my little arrow. Over here, we had equals. We had a full sum that enabled us to work out our missing values. But if I was to just give you something that looks like this, you can absolutely do nothing. You would literally be guessing and making it up. You have to wait until someone gives you more information. And there's lots of different ways that that can happen. And certainly as you continue your journey through algebra, you will see all of that. But to start off with, you're often just told a value for the x. So I could just come along and go, oh, by the way, x equals 10. Now I know what my x equals. I can work this out because x is 10. Someone's just told me it is. So 10 plus 2 is 12. 3x. Well, that's unusual. I can't even see a sign. It's like gone. So what do you want me to do? In algebra, we don't tend to use the times sign. Because x is used an awful lot, one of the reasons for that is because of our coordinate grids. You know, when we run along and we go up and down the stairs, we've got an x-axis and a y-axis. And as we progress through our algebra and just through our topics in maths, you'll start to see some links between our algebra and our graphs. And that's why x is used an awful lot, but we don't need to worry about that right now. But we do need to worry about this kind of squashing. The 3 is squashed to the x. And I would say anything, anywhere, whether there's letters or not, if it's squashed, it means times. We won't show the time sign because the letter x and the time sign, they look the same, don't they? And it can get incredibly confusing. Now, you could argue that you always use curly X's in algebra, and we do, and you'll always see that in your worksheets and textbooks and anywhere else you might be. You'll always see the curly ones. But generally, pupils learning for the first time don't do curly X's. They still do normal X's for the letter. And then it gets very, very confusing. So it's probably easier to think about, we don't use the time sign because it looks too much like a letter. You will never see that. You'll always see it squashed. So that means 3 times x. And 3 times x, well, x is 10, so that is 30. Now, I do want to just say one thing about that time sign. I'm saying to you, you will not see it. And you will only see it when you are being tested on your understanding that it shouldn't be there. So they could say simplify and then give you 3 times x. And it's you knowing, the time sign shouldn't be there. I'll take it out and squash it. And then you've simplified, you've written it in perfect algebra. So I don't want this video where I say you never see a time sign to then confuse you because you see a question with a time sign in it. It just means, do they know about the time sign? Are they going to take it out and squash it all together? So I hope I have explained enough about the letter to help you go forward with your algebra a little bit more comfortably. It doesn't matter how hard the questions get. It is always just a number I don't know. And it doesn't matter how complicated the expressions look. They still are just expressions. They are expressing numbers I don't know. That was a number, even though it had a 3 and a letter, that was a number I don't know. That was a number I don't know. And it doesn't matter how complicated I make this look, they are always still just numbers I don't know. Thank you. I hope, as I say, that this has been a really, really fabulous video for explaining the letter and that your journey going into algebra is a really, really good one because it's such a beautiful area of maths and it's one I absolutely adore getting involved in.